Welcome again to Civil Discourse Now. My name is Mark Small. I'm co-host with Paul Ogden.
Good morning, Paul.
Mark. We are coming to you from Big Hat Books in Indianapolis. It's on the north side of Indy, in an area of Indianapolis called Broad Ripple, 6510 Cornell Avenue. Excellent selection of books here. It's a locally owned bookstore, so if you want to avoid the big corporations and stuff in ownership of bookstores, go to Big Hat Books. It's 6510 Cornell Avenue, right next to Monon Bell. I happened to spot a book that they have featured right now. It's Keeping the Republic by Mitch Daniels. He's governor of Indiana. Mitch Daniels was former budget director for George W. Bush in the first part of the Bush administration, his first term of office, which shows what a great job he did on that. No, it's Freudian. He also leased our toll road in Indiana in the northern part of the state for 75 years to like an Australian company. And if you've ever driven on that toll road, you'll know what a 75-year lease can do to something. Paul, describe the show.
Mark, the show is Civil Discourse Now. Is a civil discussion of issues, whether those issues relate to local government, state government, national government, or even international issues that we tackle here. The hope is that we can bring some rational, intellectual discussion to the issues that are on the newspapers and in the TV coverage today.
Yeah, although people read newspapers less and less, because by the time you read the newspaper the next morning, you've already read it online the day before.
True.
So,
and I do want to also repeat my disclaimer from last week. I have filed to be a judicial candidate for the Republican primary coming up in May. There's one of the rules that says that if you are a candidate, you can't take a position on an issue that might appear before the court or is likely to appear before the court. So technically, if Mark is making a comment I find outrageous, but I'm limited, I can't comment on it, but I go like this, that means I totally disagree with what he's saying, but I cannot verbalize it.
I'm glad you clarified that for us, Paul, and
especially I can't verbalize.
Especially since it's the Marion County Superior Court.
What did I say?
It's Marion County Superior Court, which means that it has jurisdiction basically over anything possibly that comes before it. Of course, since you're running against the slate, if you were to get on, you'd be in traffic court, so we will avoid discussing traffic ticket laws.
No traffic issues.
No traffic issues at all.
Correct.
Our show today is, we did the same topic last week, and it is on the efficacy of third parties, so-called third parties, in American politics. Our guests are Evan McMahon from the Libertarian Party. He's executive director of Atlas Liberty PAC, and campaign manager for Rupert for governor, and also Timothy Platt. And Timothy is the executive director of the Socialist Central Committee Limited. The committee is a not-for-profit political organization incorporated in Indiana. The committee is effectively a political action committee that actively promotes socialism as a viable political alternative. And we're going to give both of our guests a chance to describe briefly what their parties and their organizations are about. But the focus of this show is more discussing the efficacy of, I find it anathema to say third parties, because that kind of implies that there's just like this other category, and there already are two parties, and there really aren't. My view, I know your view, Paul, it's just one party, because it's all the same people. You follow the money, like Deep Throat said in Watergate. It all goes back to the same basic people. But Tim, tell us about your organization and what it's about.
Okay. Well, last week you had the actual party representatives, and it sounds like this week you have the PAC that does the speaking for those. Oh, so we've got
the folks on that are post Citizens United.
There you go.
And just to clarify, also, I haven't seen any local shows that have had very many people from alternative parties on at all, and that's why we're making an effort to get
never
people.
seen that. Except libertarians get on.
And we have to fight for that as libertarians. There's a week in review that
we
can't get on.
Indiana Week in Review, no. But Abdul used to have.
Yeah.
And then they took Abdul off the air.
Abdul off the air.
I don't think it was a cause and effect.
I don't know if Amos Brown has.
Yeah, he does. He normally has the libertarian candidates on quite regularly.
And I apologize, we interrupted him.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm with, like you said, I'm with the Socialist Central Committee, and our primary message is that socialism is working class politics. So what we want to do is try to bring the socialist message back to mainstream politics. At one time, the Socialist Party of America had lots of influence within politics, and there were lots of Democrats and Republicans alike that embraced socialist ideals. And in history, they always called it populist and stuff. So you had Teddy Roosevelt on the Republican side that pushed a lot of socialist values, and then you had his cousin Franklin Roosevelt on the Democratic side that pushed a lot of socialist values as well.
And then you had Richard Nixon, who was the last socialist president of
Right.
the United States. He pushed a lot of socialist programs.
Right. Yeah, and that used to be very central in American politics, but back in the 70s or so, that started to get marginalized, and right now we have this great disparity between what the worker needs are and what the corporate needs are, and everything's going towards corporate. And during the Cold War, the whole name of socialism was kind of smeared, unfortunately, so it's our goal to bring that message back to mainstream America.
Evan?
Well, Evan McMahon, Atlas Liberty PAC, and we're a national FEC PAC, Political Action Committee. So basically what we do is we take libertarian candidates across the country that meet certain requirements. We have a checklist that you have to have. You have to be an active member of your local and state party, an active member of national.
You might want to speak up just a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'm soft spoken, sorry. So we have those requirements of being a party affiliate, being a member, an active member, as well as being able to articulate what your positions are on your key issues. You do that, we move in and we do what the big boys do, the Democrats and the Republicans. We help you hone your message, craft your mail pieces, find your printers for your yard signs, and who's going to handle your campaign staff, how do you organize events. We come in and help you do that. We're like what we like to call a dial campaign manager. And we do that at absolutely no cost to the candidate. We're subsidized by contributions from party members who think that that's something that we need to do. We need to do retail politics like the big boys and girls do on a national level. But we do that in all 50 states. We have 10 states for 2012 that we're specifically targeting due to ballot access, activist levels in that area, what they've received in votes in previous years, and the cost of the media market.
Is Indiana one of those 10 states?
Of course it is, because we're based right here in Indiana. So, and Indiana is actually one of the strongest libertarian affiliates in the country. We routinely get between 5 and 7% for Secretary of State race. We pull over 4% for presidential races. So we're one of the best affiliates in the country.
And we talked about this last week. The Secretary of State race is particularly important in this state. That's because you have to get a certain percentage of the vote for Secretary of State in the prior general election in order to be considered placed on the ballot.
Right, to get automatic ballot access.
And that's real important because you don't have to do a write-in or get petitions,
right.
Anything like that.
It's somewhere along the lines of without having automatic ballot access, and you might know this a little bit better. We've had, libertarians have had ballot access in Indiana since 1994. I believe right now it's 35,000 signatures.
I think
that's right.
34 to 35,000 signatures that you have to get. And just to frame that, we've had two presidential candidates and one gubernatorial candidate that have had a very difficult time getting 4,500 signatures. So 35,000 is a bit much in my opinion.
So you guys represent PACs, so you line up billionaires for the candidates. Is that, and that's not right?
No, we're
well, what's the deal?
Just like being a minor party, I have to go to other libertarians or other small L libertarians or Republicans who lean towards the idea of liberty and say, look, this is a candidate, very viable, this is what we're doing, we're trying to help these candidates. It's worth it to you to give $2,500. We're a PAC, we're not a super PAC, so we're bound by the $5,000 per year Federal Election Commission cap. We don't think we should be a super PAC. Our goal is to work with candidates and to endorse
How
those
does
candidates.
the $5,000, is that a contribution limit of $5,000?
Contribution limit of
Okay.
5,000. It's actually $2,500 per election, but since Citizens United, the FEC had to loosen that up a little bit, so you no longer have to do $2,500 before the primary and then $2,500 before the general. Now it's just $5,000 for the year.
But you can always do cash.
No.
I mean, I thought that was
You can, but I still have to report your name and your occupation and
Well,
employee
jeez.
information. Anything over $200, we've got to report it.
That's a rip. I mean, the people out there who have tons of money and they want to funnel it into campaigns, especially if they're from foreign corporations, how can they kind of influence anything?
Maybe you
Be a
guys could,
Republican or a Democrat.
Well, and that brings me to a good point. We're sitting here talking about, obviously you guys have very diverse views. You represent interests that are very diverse. I have a great deal of respect for that. Why is it that when you have things that are meaningful and meaningful commentary on the problems, not necessarily the solutions, but you're looking at the problems and identifying them, that you have to try and fight and gain access, and there's this monopoly that the Republican and the Democratic parties have?
Well, that's kind of historical. And, you know, coming from a socialist position, we would say that what you actually have is a monopoly of capitalists that control the democratic process. And even in college, they'll have college courses talking about the American myths, and democracy is one of those myths. You know, if you look at say the Republican candidates right now, you'll get a half a dozen individuals that get corporate support so they can go out and spread their message. So, you know, the large corporations already decided that these 5 or 6 individuals they'll fund. And so it doesn't matter which one you pick, they're all going to speak the capitalist message. And so even though it reduces down to 1, and then on the other side, the Democrat, you don't really have choice. You know, each side has already been vetted by the capitalists, and they've already been predetermined to speak the message that the corporations want.
Well, I think that there's an interesting this is an interesting post-Citizens
by the
United.
way, I think Tim, I'm sorry, I think Evan was not agreeing with that entirely. And he was grimacing when he heard some of that presentation.
Evan, go
You
ahead.
might want to give him a chance to rebut.
Some of it I definitely agree with. The system is set up right now in a corporatist manner, not in a capitalist manner, in a corporatist manner, which is businesses colluding to protect their own interests above everybody else. Capitalism is not necessarily that. Capitalism is the free exchange of goods and services on an open market. But a corporatist mentality is what we currently have, which is using the law to protect your own interests. So the two-party system has their power, and they say, okay, we're going to set our district maps, but we're going to do it behind closed doors. And even though the community and the Secretary of State are all asking for a citizen commission and asking for us to have a compact, contiguous county type of district set up, we're going to go ahead and do it behind closed doors, and we're going to make sure that whoever's in power is the one that's getting reelected. It's better for a politician to choose their voters than for the voter to choose their politicians. It's the same thing when it comes to ballot access laws. If you're currently one of the top 2 powers, why would you want to open up and make it easier for another group with a new set of ideas and a new voice to be able to challenge you?
Real briefly, we're at the end of the first segment. As somebody said to me when Nixon refused to debate McGovern, why would you ask for a redeal house?
Exactly.
Only this isn't
Exactly.
We'll be right back.
Free at a local store, national chain, will give you the antibiotics for it for free. Now, what's wrong with that? That was a free market system that brought those antibiotics to you for free.
Well, no. Actually, the free market system, I think, is a misnomer because in large part, the research that developed those antibiotics was funded by government grants.
That's true, but that doesn't matter. What I'm saying is you have a company